The Cinnamon, episode
Cinnamon!
47. We are back.
Episode 7?
47. You were
Oh,
busy
okay,
singing
okay.
when I said the 40 part.
Oh,
No,
damn backup singers.
7
Why
is-
did we hire them?
I don't know, but they sounded strangely like a falsetto Douglas Davidson for some reason.
Weird how that
Weird how that all planned out. Yeah, episode 47 is Cinnamon. Plus, if we were back at episode 7, that means we'd be 3 episodes away from the greatest episode of Cinnamon that ever
That is
aired.
true. The primer
Wonderful.
episode. It gets no better than that episode.
No, it's no better than the primer episode.
I gotta mention this, if only because it's a perfect segue. So the book that I use for all of my notes, I'm here with that much left.
Getting close.
This is where it started in the spring of 2016, and I was looking through this after dinner, and where did I find but the first ever Paprika episode I ever joined you guys on? I was looking through this. It was like podcast prep, December 9th. Let's see what we were talking about.
Yeah, I think that was the Paprika Awards.
That was.
Yeah. Was that
joined the round table?
Yeah, during the round table. Yeah, that was a good episode.
Yeah, and you know what? We think that this whole Zoom thing is inconvenient. It was you and me sitting across your tablet where we had E and Prez Rick.
Yeah.
But I forget if they were calling each other and then you were recording it on your phone. So really, this is like we're on Mars, man. This is such an improvement.
This is leaps and bounds better than what we had. Who knew this technology existed in 2016?
I mean, you had much better co-hosts, I think, than you do now, but the technology's better.
You know, a trade-off. So let's trade-off.
Anyway, how you doing?
I'm here, man. I'm here. It's been a long couple days for me, but I'm at my end and just kind of really relaxing for the next day or so.
Okay, there's relaxing coming. You were like, I'm at my end. And wait, this is how you tell us?
Well, believe me, the last week or so
and
of work,
I'm done
I was
now.
at my end. Yes.
Bye. Fade.
He's peace and then phase. And you just hear a gunshot at the end of the episode. And we're like, well, who would edit it and publish the episode, though?
What happened to JR? What happened to JR?
Who shot him? Yeah. It's been a long couple of days, but I'm here. And I'm ready to talk some movies. What's new with you, sir?
I am barely holding on. I am exhausted from South by Southwest, and I didn't even do it the way that a lot of other folks do it. There are people that even at the regular festival could see like 5 or 6 films in a day, write them up, and then do it again the next day. I did one a day and wrote up one a day, but then again, I was also doing like virtual kindergarten and other stuff. I'm so tired.
Yeah.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day, and I'm like, how are people watching these movies back to back to back and then remembering what happened enough to write up a succinct review on all these things?
I mean, I get it to a degree because there were some days where I would, because we've got Preston, we'd sometimes put on a movie or something around trying to put him down because we knew we were going to be up for a while. So I might watch something for South by, and then we might finish up one movie and start another movie on that same night. And then I write up the review the next day. There's, you take notes or you have a process or something that help you delineate one from the other. So I get there's some people that can do that. Hunter Heilman is someone who can do shit like that. He can watch 3 or 4 movies in a day and then write amazing reviews. I'd see 2 films and struggle. So, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. I think maybe it's like anything else. It's a muscle.
It's a muscle. I usually like hit end credits and then immediately start writing. And the latest Justice League, I think I wrote the next day, and I was like, oh no, I've forgotten everything. Or it might have been 2 days later.
But, I do the next day. I try at most to wait a day. I used to write as soon as I got home from something, but I found that having time to gestate a little bit on it, to think about it, it made for not only an easier review, but something more in-depth to discuss. The few times where I've written something more recently, right after watching it, I'll go back and look at it and go, oh, what the hell are you talking about? But it is one of those nice things, you talk about Justice League, where the situation we're in, more often than not, we get to do something digitally. So unless there's, a time limit on the screener where you only have X amount of time, you can go and pull that sucker up.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So speaking of South by Southwest, sir, what have you seen lately?
I covered 8 films for South by, and they were a mixture of different things. I'm not going to get in depth on anything just because we've got other stuff to talk about. But if any of these sound of interest, there are full spoiler-free reviews of each of these on elementsofmadness.com, as well as a slew of other reviews that are still coming from the EOM team. But for the Kevin Smith fans, there's a documentary coming out called Clerk, with a period. Just like Clerks, the period. But it's done by Michael Ingram, and it's about Kevin Smith. It starts with a video of him getting ready to leave to go to Vancouver to film school, and then it's through the heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
There's some things that they sort of skip over. They don't discuss him working for DC TV at all. So if you're a big Kevin Smith fan, you're going to kind of go, why didn't you talk about these? But it's really wonderful. And it sort of gives you this sense of, yeah, this guy is really sort of indestructible. And it doesn't matter what the industry says or does about to him, he's going to survive. Uh-oh, what happened?
It's just cars with giant engines up and down the street. And I'm tired of them doing this whenever I'm trying to record something.
It helps. I didn't hear it on this end.
All right, good.
So we may be talking about this for no reason.
For no reason whatsoever. Let's get those second shots as quickly as possible, please. I heard about this Clerk a while back, and I am very much interested.
It's very, very good. I highly enjoyed that as a Kevin Smith fan. Another film that I really, really loved is a film called Women as Losers. And this film, it's a little bit more on the indie side, and I thought it was a ton of fun. It's from writer-director Lisette Feliciano. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Lisette Feliciano. She is a talent to watch. This is a story that is set in the 1960s, San Francisco, about a girl in high school around 17 years of age, gets pregnant, and in keeping the child, how her life in that era is affected. It's got a really solid cast, but what's really wonderful about it is that it's, whether intentionally or not, that part I'm not sure, but you get the sense that it's so low budget. They don't do set dressing. They don't do anything at all. So, and they point this out in the beginning of the movie, like, forgive us for all of these things, but you'll see like a bus drive by and there's Applebee's in the distance. Now, I don't know when Applebee's was formed, but it was probably not there in 1960 with the neon lights and everything else.
Right.
So there's a lot of these really wonderful moments that seem idiosyncratic in the sense that the time period that the film is taking place in, but it also helps, at least to me, the way I read it, convey the sense that the issues that were happening to women, to immigrants, to people born here, but are looked at differently because their family came from another country, that are still happening today. So I found that one really, really wonderful. There's a really fascinating documentary called Luchadoras. It's set in Mexico. It's along the border of US and Mexico. All of a sudden, I can't remember where specifically, and that's gonna bug the shit out of me. So I apologize. But it follows, it's a little tricky. It follows a couple of women that are wrestlers, some that are amateurs, some that come from a family of wrestlers, and it's sort of juxtaposed against the violence that takes place against women in this area. So it doesn't really balance the two stories very well, but what you do get is really wonderful. And then the last film I wanted to mention is called Violet. This is a film from writer, director, actor, producer Justine Bateman. So like Family Ties, Justine Bateman. Her first feature-length film, she's directed other stuff, is a movie called Violet, starring Olivia Munn, a bunch of other folks, and then the voice of Justin Theroux. And the premise of the film is that she's a woman who hears a voice in her head, and she keeps following that voice, but it often is sending her down the wrong path. And the way that the film is done, there's a lot of these sort of artistic moments that represent intrusive thoughts. So you'll be sitting there minding your business, and then all of a sudden you'll think something really horrible, or you'll have a memory of something that you screwed up on, and so it's sending you spiraling. It's that kind of imagery comes out of nowhere. The voice in her head by Justin Theroux will be saying one thing, talking about how shitty she is, and then you'll see text underneath her or around her conveying her real emotion in a scene. And it is a powerful film, but I will admit, and this comes from Justine Bateman herself in the press notes, is a subjective experience, and I agree with that. Plenty of people hated this movie. It was my favorite film of South by Southwest. It is my favorite film of 2021.
Right on.
So if you get the chance to see it, I highly recommend it.
There you go.
Yeah.
4 recommendations for you people right there.
Yeah.
Boom, done and
I've
done.
seen a bunch of other stuff, most of which is coming out on home video, but I also saw Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Oh yeah, I guess we could talk about that. Or are we saving that for? Do we want a little something for the regular people, and then to get a little pinch of that behind the paywall there?
Either way works for me. I am surprised to say I dug the shit out of it, and I've been itching to rewatch it ever since.
Oh man, for some reason I thought you were one of the guys that didn't like it.
No.
All right,
that's Joel Winstead.
That might be thinking about Winstead.
Yeah. He was like, he's right now going, wait a minute, I sense someone speaking positively about Zack Snyder's Justice League. Why do I feel angry?
Relax, or bullet pressure.
Which is a mood. I mean, that's a choice.
That's a mood and a choice.
He likes Chaos Walking, and all I hear is that it's a terrible movie. So I mean,
it wasn't terrible. It's just it's one of those joints where like you're allowed to have bad movies. Like not everything is going to be great or for you, but movies with potential that don't use that potential, those are the egregious ones to me. And that for me, like based off an adaptation, the dude who wrote it also helped out in the screenplay. So you would think that, prose novel writing does not always equate to screenwriting, right? 2 different muscles that need to be flexed. But yeah, that there was a concept there that it was not fully explored to its full potential. But to say it's bad, no, it's okay. It's just fine. Capital J, capital F, just fine.
Oh, that's a Southern way to say it's horrible.
It's just fine.
It's fine.
It's fine. I also dug the shit out of Justice League. I had to work 3 a.m. the other day when the Justice is Gray cut hit HBO Max, and I was like, looks like that's fun doing.
What a subheading! Justice is Gray.
It's such a Zack Snyder phrase.
That feels like he ripped it off from Lego Batman. I work in dark black and sometimes dark gray.
But yeah, it's also is an interesting experience if you watch it in that format as well. We'll talk more about that if you subscribe on Patreon when we do our Pinch of Cinnamon, where we talk all about Zack Snyder's DCEU. So be on the lookout for that.
I'm suddenly excited to talk about it. It's really weird.
It is indeed weird. For me, I watched a movie that you floated past me last time we recorded. After what you listeners don't know is usually after the show is done, there's another 15 minutes of us just chatting and BSing. And you floated Dolphin Island my way as someone who reached out to you and asked you to review it. You didn't quite have the time. You were juggling all sorts of nonsense and whatnot. And I said, give me that. And took it off your hands for you and reached out to the producer, and I was like, run them goods. And he was kind enough to give me a copy. Man, it's outside of the paprika wheelhouse is a good way of putting it. Very fun, family-friendly movie.
We don't like fun family.
We don't like fun and friendly.
We need family murdering. That's why they like Snyder up.
That's why they like Snyder up in the jump, man. But this one, man, it's wonderfully joyous to watch, man. Not a very well known of movie, so if you haven't heard of Dolphin Island, no knock to you. But what the deal is After losing her parents in a tragic accident, a 14-year-old girl is raised by her granddad in the Caribbean island area. So,
Lose your parents, go to the Caribbean.
trade-offs. Again, we talked about trade-offs earlier.
Alexander Hamilton lost his parents, left the Caribbean. It's a very different story.
A very different story. And it's just kind of looking at her, kind of examination of her life, just chilling with her granddad. This, he himself a quirky member of the island, and this weird eclectic cast of people who form this community on the island, and how that idyllic beach life is interrupted when it was her paternal grandparents that were killed, when the maternal grandparents show up and say, hey, we want her to have a quote unquote real life and bring her back to the big bad city. And like that's where that's where your inner turmoil comes from. It's hard to call them antagonists because
damn hippies, give us back our grandchildren.
Yeah, I mean, they say like your best villains think they're doing the right thing for the right cause, and that kind of is the case with these grandparents. They're not doing nefarious things for nefarious sake. They just genuinely want what they think will be a better life for this. What'd you say?
Hate hippies.
They hate those long-haired hippies, the yuppie scum. And it's directed by Mike Disa, whose work I'm not familiar with, but this is just a good, fun, breezy movie. It's a family film. So there's those elements that usually come with the family film. You got a lawyer that's very mustache twirling, Snidely Whiplash type character, and he looks like he's having a ball playing this role. And you're filming in the
that's great.
Yeah, you're in the Bahamas filming. I mean, you're gonna have some fun times. So if you're looking for something to watch with the family, you can sit down, cue this joint up on a Saturday evening, and I think you really enjoy it. The one strong suit of this movie is the cinematography, man. They make every use of that tropical location, blue waters, white sand, and they work the whole nines with the cinematography on this. Very beautiful movie. The good thing about, well, not really good thing, but the thing about this is when they filmed this movie was right after the Bahamas got hit with a horrible tropical storm, and then right before everybody got hit with COVID. So this kind of fucked up this city that they filmed in. So a good portion of the proceeds of this movie are going back to the local crew that helped them film this movie. So if you pay the thing is $3.99 to watch this, you'll be doing a little favor for somebody who doesn't want to do a favor. And you can find the link to all that good stuff on the Paprika review for this bad boy.
Right on.
So good call on sliding that my way, sir.
I
was like, oh, family film.
I don't know if it's a good call, but I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's a nice little family jump, and you do something nice for some people, so you can't say no to that.
Right on. You see anything else we're seeing?
Yeah. As of today, nobody came out, man. I know we can talk about that. You've seen it already as well. Odenkirk, man. Just the man just continues to be a class actor, man. What did you think about the movie?
I really dug it. It's there, and I mentioned this in my review. It has a lot of elements of Red. It has a lot of elements of the John Wick universe, of Atomic Blonde, that sort of deal, where there's some wonderful needle drops that are reminiscent of how they used music in Atomic Blonde to communicate things. The needle drops here very much do that. And some wonderful selections of music. It was written by Derek Kolstad, who created the characters of the John Wick universe. And it's directed by Ilya, what the heck's his name?
Super Russian ass name.
Yeah, who directed Hardcore Henry.
Yes.
What was that?
Neischuler?
Ilya Neischuler. Who directed Hardcore Henry. And so I was like,
a cinnamon challenge.
This is going to be good. Now, here's the thing. It is good. It is not like, holy shit. I don't think this is something you have to see in theater, but I think that it wouldn't be the worst thing to see it in a theater. It's got some great music. It's got some great action to really get a quality sound out of it. Certainly, if your home theater doesn't do the job, but it's a ton of fun. There's some wonderful themes that are going on in there, and I like how sort of subtle it is, and that because it's coming from a universe that feels familiar, they can shorthand a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
My one disappointment is that it doesn't seem to be directly connected to the John Wick universe. I really wanted it to be somehow connected where, like, I don't know, maybe we'll find out if they make a sequel or something that what's her name from Atomic Blonde, Lorraine Broughton, had at some point in her career worked with Hutch.
Yeah, Hutch. Yeah, I think I know when that first trailer came out and they showed him getting those gold bars out of the bag, everybody was like, those same gold bars that Keanu Reeves has. I don't think that's the case. There's no,
because they have coins.
Yeah, I thought doesn't Keanu have bars as well?
I could go check while we're recording this.
Not that important.
It's not that serious.
That's what I was looking for. Not that serious. Yeah, I thought it was a fun fucking ride, man. I think, yeah, this is the easiest way to put it, is a fun fucking ride. Odenkirk, like I said, continues to impress. Christopher Lloyd, always wonderful to see.
Christopher Lloyd with a shotgun.
Christopher Lloyd with a shotgun, which
big old fucking smile on his face.
Fully believe in real life that shotgun would blow his ass right over. But give him some lead boots. I don't know, but yeah, it's a great addition to what I call in my review the old men in action genre.
Yeah,
which seems to be, like you said, ties to Wick. I also mentioned The Equalizer. Mm-hmm. And Taken, which kind of started this whole old men in action type deal. With it, Taken or Expendables come first? I think Taken came first. So yeah,
yes, Taken did come first.
The old men in action subgenre, and I think this is a very worthy addition to that genre. And it where it has ties for you to Atomic Blonde. For me, it felt especially in the third act, just how they execute the third act, the setting, the location, how they go about things is very third act Equalizer. Mm-hmm. The first Equalizer, for the Denzel joint from 2014, and it's worthy addition to this genre. It's just a lot of fun. If you're looking for fun, this is the fun movie right here.
Yeah, and what's weird about it is that it really shouldn't be fun, because it's about a guy who is so fed up with his life, not for the reason you think, and he's just been itching to rip someone's head off.
Right.
And being provided that opportunity, he's just coming alive. And the fact that it's Odenkirk, it's Mr. March. And it works. It works so well.
I think one of the reasons it works as well as it does is other action movies kind of like to throw you into the action to grab you real quick in that first. Like you look at Casino Royale, man, it starts off with some good action. Actually, it's got 2 back-to-back action beats in the very first act. And other movies like that just kind of want to grab you real quick. With this, they withhold that. Like, you see him ramp up, and you're like, here we go. But nope, that was a fake out. And so it teases the audience. So when you actually do get it, so then you're like, here's what I came to see. And it makes it a little bit more sweeter for it, I think.
Just out of curiosity, and I found this interesting. Did you read the production notes that were made available with the film?
No.
Evidently, this has happened. Odenkirk, if I remember correctly, has been part of 2 home invasions.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so the idea for Nobody came out of that. And that apparently one of the police officers did say, while I wouldn't have done what you did the right thing by not acting, which is almost directly and certainly delivered differently in the movie itself. Because the whole thing in the marketing is about how he supposedly should be feeling bad for not having done anything during the home invasion, and that's what spurs him on. And it's sort of a twist on a sort of Death Wish type of story.
Right.
So to find out that they pitched this to David Lech, and I forget his producing partner, I forget her name, they pitched it to them with this story with Odenkirk attached to find out that that's where this began.
That's pretty dope, man.
That's pretty awesome. And I think so many people are going to come to it thinking it's so similar to these other films we've mentioned because of Kolstad, because of Neischuler. Knowing that it started with Odenkirk somehow makes it even better.
Agreed.
Really
And they do leave more than enough room for another couple of movies in this universe. You know what, man? If you want to give us an Avengers of old people doing action, that's not the Expendables. Give me this, man. Give me Keanu, Odenkirk, and Charlize Theron just out there whooping ass.
And you know
and
what?
Bring Halle back too. She's in John Wick 3.
Yes, because they were talking about a spinoff, and then I don't know if COVID threw that out or what, but yes, bring them all back. I honestly, because I feel like the High Table would be competing with the Alphabet folks in some way that you'd need an auditor to go up against.
yeah, it's like and there's enough quirky characters in all of that you want to see those. Like, give me Lance Reddick in a scene with the RZA, and what kind of nonsense do they get into? Bring John Goodman as Charlize Theron's boss into this whole. How does he upset the apple cart?
The only trick we run into is I think
although I think
Atomic Blonde took place in like
Cold
60s,
War.
70s. Yeah. So it'd be a little harder. No, 80s. I was off by 20 years. So that one took place in the 80s. But they're spooks, so I don't give a fuck. I honestly just right out the window.
Takes place in the 80s. That's almost 40 years later. Just cast Helen Mirren as Charlize Theron. There you go.
Actually, I'd still watch that.
Yeah, isn't she in Red? There you go. She's done her action.
But yeah, Lance Reddick, put him in a scene with what's his name? I'm looking at he played the barber, and I can't think of his name.
I just know him as the black guy from James Bond movie, from Pierce Brosnan James Bond movies.
Okay, I would like to point out Daryl said that. I think that's Colin Salmon.
Yep, that's him.
Okay. Woo! Yeah, I can't find his name on Letterboxd. So.
There was talk for a bit, briefly, about him taking over as Bond after Pierce Brosnan left.
Really?
Yeah. They flew. His name was floated about a couple places.
Gee, I wonder why they didn't go in that direction.
Right. Probably because they saw Layer Cake and they're like, "Give me this Craig guy."
I need to rewatch Layer Cake. I haven't seen it in forever, and I remember not being too impressed by it. But I know Daniel Craig more now.
So. Yeah, I watched it maybe like 2 years ago, but I was deep into the cups and had no idea. I don't remember much of it. It's almost like Cinnamon Challenge worthy because I just remember flat out nothing of it when I watched it. I remember seeing a couple of the British actors and like, oh, I know that guy from somewhere, and that's my memory is me going, oh, I know that guy. That's my review of that movie. Is I know that guy from somewhere else.
I will say though, there have been times when I've rewatched movies I know I've seen and gone, when the fuck did they show up in this movie? Wait, they're who? What?
Yeah, really? Right.
They're in this?
Yeah. So good movies, all those. And I would very much like to see more in the Nobody universe. You want to get into today's topic?
Let's do it. So I came up with this one. This one was my idea. So if y'all don't like it, suck it. No, just kidding. The look on Daryl's face. Why are you getting so aggressive?
Right? Yeah, so, I was wondering. Hey, calm down.
You will keep listening. Please keep listening. No, but it's the end of March, beginning of April.
March Madness.
And I just I requested to do a home release review of the 10 Commandments, which dropped on 4K or is dropping by the time this comes out to the public. You guys will probably be able to pick that up too.
I've never seen it.
It got me thinking about this time of year because, for Connor, it's all about, as he put it today, the Easter Bunny pooping eggs.
Yeah, he's not wrong.
But for a lot of people, it could be about Passover, which is about to begin this weekend or has begun at the time of this recording. And then, of course, Easter that's coming up. So I thought it might be fun to talk about resurrections. because I thought that would be sort of fun and entertaining. So just to give you an idea about what we're talking about here, it's like T'Challa and Black Panther. It's well, I can't remember the character's name from The Last Starfighter who gets shot and then he shows up just fine later.
Yeah, that's a good call.
Technically, Victor Stone does count. He was resurrected by the Mother Box.
Wait a minute,
by Mother.
Let me hold on a second.
What?
By
RoboCop?
RoboCop? Are we talking about most of these people?
They did.
No, T'Challa, I still believe, is not fully dead when he is found.
You're right. He is a little to blame, but he is a little, if not for the ice. So you're right. T'Challa doesn't count. We'll take him off there. But you got Bethany in Dogma. She dead. She gets brought back to life.
Yes.
You've got Trinity in Matrix Reloaded, Neo and Agent Smith in the original Matrix. You've got Gandalf, who goes from gray to white. You have Michael J. Fox, who dies twice in The Frighteners. You have Eric Draven in The Crow. And you have The Last Jedi.
You do have all that, yes.
Do you know why The Last Jedi counts as a resurrection movie?
Why is that?
It resurrected my interest in Star Wars.
Moving right along.
So, what is your first resurrection film? Or character? Or person? Or place? Or thing?
You know, I had one, but I did not think of Eric Draven. And I think I'm actually going to take that one off the list, throw on my boy Eric Draven. I think 1994, if I remember correctly, The Crow. Man, look, oh my God, this is what was going to put Brandon Lee on the damn map. I think in a big, bad, hard way. Yeah. We would have had a Chinese American action. Well, I mean, 94. So we already had, or we were about to get Jackie Chan coming over and doing or importing movies and doing Rumble in the Bronx, which I think is like 95. So the door was opening for Asian American action heroes. And I think,
and he had done Showdown in Little Tokyo, if I remember correctly.
Yes, I think this would have put Brandon Lee big bad on the map. Something tells me this also could have prevented any future Crow movies because them shits is garbage. But yeah, it's the thing that's great about that movie is the tone. Just the tone and the feel. Just always rainy. It's always dark. It's always grungy. Like,
can't rain all the time.
Can't rain all the time, Dave. Which is something I say quite often when it's raining hard. Some of the actors are hamming it up a little bit, and that's to be excused too. This is borderline B movie, I think. But I think it is anchored by the performance of Brandon Lee as Eric Draven, and just the whole concept of a soul that cannot completely rest until a wrong is righted is something that's right up my alley. And I think he plays it well. I think it's slickly directed. I love The Crow. It's one of those like, man, it's almost Halloween, man. It's the devil's night. We got to sit down. We got to bust out The Crow. Based off the graphic novel J.O. Barr. Bit of a dick, but he still made a good story, and I think it is one of the better adaptations out there that nobody really speaks of graphic novels.
It's not the most strict adaptation. When I forget which bookstore I was working in when I found the graphic novel, so I flipped through it and was surprised to see the differences. But if you don't know the comic, the adaptation still works really, really well. And that soundtrack is still just a banger.
That is also one of the huge strengths. Is that's not even a genre of music I really get down with, but what they do with the music in that movie just suits and adds to that tone I was talking about so well. That is an example of using music to fit that tone mood, unlike our poor Snyder, who's like, how on the nose can I get?
Ancient Lamentation. Ancient Lamentation.
I'm all about my Ancient Lamentation music. Yeah, good call on running off Eric Draven on the list. My original joint was going to be about as Christ-like as you can get. Aslan from Chronicles of Narnia.
He's on my list of samples, and I didn't bring him up.
I thought about it.
There you go.
Yeah, what is your number one there, sir?
That was a good pick. So I'm going to compliment yours by going with a film that I can't talk about anything involving resurrection without thinking about this film. Uh, Jorge Gutierrez, 2014, The Book of Life.
Book of Life.
I love The Book of Life. If you've never seen it, okay, challenge.
Yeah,
Not even a joke.
I've never seen this.
It is the biggest reason I didn't rush to see Coco is when I saw the trailers for that. I went, "Oh, I've seen this movie."
That's why I know this movie, because I've heard you say that before.
Yes. The whole film is animated, but the characters are done as though they are puppets because there are characters telling the story about the Day of the Dead. And so you've got two spirits, one that oversees the land of the remembered and one that oversees the land of the forgotten. And they're sort of competing for who gets to control what. And a love triangle gets caught in the middle.
Okay.
The cast is a little weird for this. Diego Luna leads it as our main character, Manolo, who is the last remaining Sanchez, and they're all bullfighters.
Isn't Diego Luna in Coco?
What was that?
Isn't Diego Luna in Coco?
I don't remember. I've only seen Coco once. But this movie also has Channing Tatum, Zoe Saldana, Christina Applegate, Cheech Marin, Gabriel Iglesias, Ron Perlman, Kate DiCastillo, Ice Cube, Hector Elizondo, Danny Trejo, Placido Domingo. This has an incredible cast, and it also has. They also do a lot of covers of songs.
And Guillermo del Toro?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I think he was the producer of this.
Okay. He's the land of the remembered captain's wife, apparently.
Oh, he is?
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me. The movie is silly. It is sweet. The covers that they do are quite good. There is one of them that is not a cover. I forget the name of it all of a sudden. I was playing it before I came upstairs, so CRS is kicking in. Can't remember shit. But I absolutely love this movie, and if I feel like I just need something to pick me up, I put this on. It is just so much fun. It really is. So that is my first of three, The Book of Life.
My second one, you brought it up on your list. We talked about our list earlier, and I was like, oh, he's on to me. He knows. Come on, man. It's The Matrix. It's Neo. I mean, it is, I think, very well documented, especially in Paprika, how much I love this movie. This movie was my number one favorite movie for decades. I've talked ad nauseum about The Matrix, about all the philosophy, the themes, the allegories, so much that can be mined with every watch. And yeah, it's hard to do any kind of resurrection story and trying to skirt around the whole imagery, religious imagery and aspect of it, where I think The Matrix is very subtle about how they do it. You could say that Neo is a very Christ-like figure in this movie, and he is the one. But they don't beat you over the head about it, which is something I don't think. I think it's
not in the first one.
Not in the first one,
The
and
second
not
one,
as
there's a whole scene about it.
yeah, not as much as other people have done, which we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's there's a lot of elements in this stew that are all floating around, and no one overbears the other. They all are congruent with each other, and it gives for a rich, compelling character that is Neo, who questions himself, questions reality, no, he doesn't belong, and all that kind of good stuff. And it is wonderfully executed by Keanu Reeves. I've said often, the reason he works so well for the role of Neo is because in the movie, Neo generally has no idea what's going on. He's always behind the 8 ball in terms of information. And it always seemed to me like at that time in the 90s, Keanu had no idea what was going on. And it was just like, oh, okay, he's a perfect cast. This makes sense. A very different realization than if they had got their first pick and Will Smith had done it. This would not be the movie that we got. Thankfully.
It would have been a very different type of movie, particularly if Will had done Will Smith.
Yes, and I think Will would have done Will Smith, and that would have hurt this particular project. The Neo, man, love it.
Which, for anybody wondering, episode 34, Films of Revolution, episode 7 and episode 9, we have in some capacity or another discussed The Matrix. In case you'd like to hear any of Daryl's other thoughts on that movie.
I will find a way to put it on best Polish films from the 30s. I'll find a way.
That reminds me of the scene in The Matrix.
What's your second movie, sir?
Okay, so as you know, I read off a couple of films. I was having so much fun trying to think of some good resurrections. Like, could you include time loop movies? They do die, but they're not technically being reborn. It's just time resetting. So you couldn't do necessarily Live, Die, Repeat, which, you can't do Groundhog Day. You can't do Palm Springs.
Mm-hmm.
But I was trying to think of something that would be sort of a fun resurrection, a fun surprise. And so I was doing research and I came across this and I went, yes, when this happened in this movie, I remember people being like, what the hell? And it was apparently a bit of a surprise to the cast. 2006, Gore Verbinski, Dead Man's Chest, Barbossa Returns.
That's the very end of the movie?
That is the very end of the movie. They're trying to figure out how to get Jack out of purgatory or wherever the heck he's being held. And he's like, I can do this, or whatever the fuck he says. Earlier in the movie, when they'd gone to see the woman who saved them, because I forget her character's name, you see his boots. He's laying in bed. He's visible. There's somebody there. If you see it in the frame, you can see someone's there. Yeah, she was working on bringing him back.
Well then, say what you want about where that franchise went. It went some places. It went places, all right. I will cape for the first and generally the second movie as hard as possible. And I still say to this day, I cannot remember a good swashbuckle movie since the first Pirates of the Caribbean. That whole genre is dead, unfortunately, for the most part. But yeah, damn good call, sir. Never in a million podcasts would have popped into my head as a possibility.
But I was just doing some research and it got mentioned. I was like, yes, because Jeffrey Rush is having so much fun in that role.
Yeah.
Even when you can tell that Johnny Depp is like getting fed lines and he's drunk off his ass and just making his way through Jack Sparrow, Jeffrey Rush is still having a flipping blast.
Yeah. So many times he just leans into the camera so he can show off those horrible teeth of his and whatever he's talking about. And yeah, if anybody's having a blast, and I kind of feel like, once again, you're filming in the Caribbean. You're probably gonna have a fun time. I'm pretty sure the crew had a blast filming this movie, but Jeffrey Rush looked like he enjoyed every second of it. Yeah, so man, I might have to put on some Pirates after this.
There you go.
It's been a while. Those are deserving of a rewatch. My third one, man, I kind of wanted to go a little bit squirrely and see if I could skirt the rules a little bit here. And technically, if you've died and been brought back to life, that could be because of a supernatural occurrence. And that's why mine is the 2013 remake, Fede Alvarez's The Evil Dead.
There you go.
One character in particular, Eric. If you never saw the Evil Dead remake, the premise of why they're at that cabin is much different than its original Sam Raimi antecedent. They are there to help their friend dry out, for the most part. Drug addict. They're doing the worst steps instead of putting her in an official rehab, although I think they said that she's been in and out. But this was their attempt to have her quit cold turkey. which does not seem like a smart idea. And one of the people on hand is Eric, a friend, if I remember correctly, of the boyfriend of Mia, the main person who's there to dry out. If you don't know what the Evil Dead is, first of all, why are you listening to this show? Second of all, supernatural forces accidentally unleashed by idiots. And
okay, real quick. First of all, if you've never seen The Evil Dead, you're in for a treat.
You're in for a treat.
It is a special kind of movie. I can't speak to the remake, but evil is unleashed accidentally by a bunch of idiots. Beautiful summary. Beautiful summary.
Have you not seen the remake?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's what you expect, right? It's
the reason why I haven't is because it is a little straighter. I mean, the first Evil Dead is a straight horror film anyway, but what I know about the new one, particularly what happens to the new Ash, it would be very hard for me to watch.
Okay.
So,
all right, fair enough.
Crystal went and saw it. I forget who she went with, and she came back because I was like, "You let me know if it's good, and you'll see it again, and you think I can handle it. I'll go." She came home and went, "You're never watching this."
Yeah, I could see that.
Just how it's going to be.
I quite enjoyed it for what it was. Not as scary as you would think. Obviously, they have a much better budget than the original Evil Dead, so they kind of ratchet up the blood, they ratchet up the gore, which I kind of expected going into this.
From what I understand, there's not a single ratchet actually used. It's a little bit dirtier and gorier than that.
But the chainsaw is used to good effect, and it's nice to see the chainsaw make an appearance in this movie. This particular person, Eric, kind of gets his somewhere between halfway and 3/4 into the film, long enough that he's dead and enough events have transpired that you've completely forgotten about this guy. Things are coming to their natural end, and that's when he turns and comes back. We're like, oh shit, I forgot about this dude altogether in the first place. And I think that's what makes it a pretty good resurrection, is just the amount of time and the amount of events that have gone on between since you last see him on screen, and he comes back at just the worst, most inopportune time for our people trying to get the fuck out of there. That I will say, the movie itself is okay, but that is a very well done plot point.
Interesting. See, originally I was trying to figure out how to use the quick stop as one of my resurrections, because Clerks 2, it goes up in smoke, and by the end of the movie, they bring it back.
Yeah.
It's this glorious thing. Now I'm thinking I should have kept it on the list if you're using Deadites.
Yeah, Deadites, man. We're all using Deadites. Clerks 3 is script is in the can, by the way.
I'm hoping to see it.
Yeah.
Hoping to see it. But nice. Anytime Evil Dead in any form or another hits a list, I'm a happy camper.
Yeah, I was really trying to figure out a way to put one of the original Evil Deads on, but I was like, none of those are good comebacks. Like, all great, wild, weird deaths, but no great resurrections. Yeah. And that's what led me to the remake.
Well, I'm going to pseudo piggyback on that. I'm also going to stick with the supernatural. My last one, when I was going through stuff, Crystal brought this up. At least I think it was her. And I went, this is perfect. And it's not because of who it happens to. It's who it happens with and the way that it goes down. 2005, directed by Francis Lawrence, Constantine. End of the movie. Shit's going down. Constantine kills himself.
Yeah.
Peter Stormare as Lucifer shows up and is figuring out what's going on, and then because of this good act, Constantine's flying off to heaven, middle fingers in the air, and he goes, no. Takes it, grabs onto Constantine, digs his fingers in, rips out the cancer from his lungs, and brings him back to life. The whole shooting of that sequence, the performance by Stormare, the performance by Keanu, the staging, the special effects, it's all wonderful. He's dragging Keanu's body, and it just starts getting stuck to where nothing's moving because he's done a good act. He saved his soul, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So that to me is, of the resurrections, it's accidental and it certainly leads to additional trauma for poor John Constantine. But man, if it isn't staged so fucking well.
For me,
And
it's the setup. That's
there's
what
so
does it
much
for
to
me.
it.
Because I think at least once, I know for certain, but I think twice it is said earlier in the film by two different people. I know Papa Midnight says it, and someone else I think might say it. You would be the only one the devil himself would show up for. Personally, Lucifer himself would show up for. And the fact that that's exactly what happens, you're like, good payoff on that setup. Because it seems like a figure of speech, like a hyperbole. Nope.
And it's so great. Peter is so good.
I love Peter Stormare.
And what's awesome about this, just in terms of behind the scenes, they apparently had so much fun doing this that after seeing John Wick, Peter got in touch with Keanu and was like, I want to do this.
I want to. Can I?
And that's how he got the part for the beginning of the second
part two. Yeah, I like it.
I mean, shit. If I could watch you in a movie and be like, hey man, that's fun. Hook me up. Awesome. Make movies with your friends. It's great.
I mean, that's the philosophy that Kevin Smith lives by.
Exactly. So this was fun. These were some good choices here, man.
Good choices. I agree. Yeah, let's get into the Cinnamon Challenge.
Yes. Well, since we're talking supernatural, I'd like you to go first. Because that's a more natural segue than what you challenged me to.
And it's kind of why I chose Evil Dead last, was to put a prime for going into this. And here's what the whole show drags to a screeching halt.
Oh
no! You gave me House, a Japanese film from 1977, July 30th, 77. So while all of our young American minds are being blown by wizards and light swords, on the other side of the world, this shit was going down. It's a comedy horror about some young girls who are on a trip. They go to a supernatural type house where unfortunate events befall them, is the easiest way to put that without, giving away any spoilers. But it's comedy horror, but still horror elements. Some people are going to get clapped out,
Wildly.
Yeah, put in the most Japanese fashion. Directed by, I'm going to pronounce your name wrong, sir, and I'm sorry, Nobuhiko Obayashi, who, doing a little bit of digging after I watched this, it seems like this is a very surreal type movie. There's a lot of interesting creative choices were made directorially, and it just seems like that's kind of what his filmography, that's what he was about. He just wanted to make off the wall, off kilter, weird movies, make it a little bit uncomfortable, but still kind of make you think. And this one is, it's a movie. It's a movie.
That I will admit, the first 30 minutes are a little rough. I watched it in October as part of we're going to watch horror movies in October on the weekends.
Okay.
And neither Crystal or I had seen it. In that first 30 minutes, we're looking at each other like, why does everyone we know that has seen this loved it so much? And then they get to the house.
It's a huge marked tonal shift between what you get in that first 30 minutes and then what you get when you get to the house. I wasn't a huge fan of the movie, but the creative risks, I'm all for that. And he swung for the fences. He got ambitious with it, and that I'll give him some credit for it. I did take a lot of issues with one of the characters. It's one of those, you got to judge it by the time period that it was made. But all the fat jokes for the character Mac, I wasn't a huge fan of, or where every scene she's eating or talking about food or just walking around holding a watermelon for no reason whatsoever than to associate this not really overweight character with food in some kind of way. That bothered me a little bit. Doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, if I remember correctly. She's the first one to go anyways. But yeah, it's
is she the one that turns into the floating head that's eating people?
No. If I remember correctly, she wants to find a place to put this dumb watermelon that she's carrying around, and they're going to visit one of the girl's aunts, and the aunt says, no, put it in nature's refrigerator, the well. Yeah. Which I was like, oh, shit, that kind of is nature's refrigerator, isn't it? And then she's not seen again. Yeah, well, she's the head that kind of that flies out of the well and bites the girl in the butt.
But
yeah, that's
and it's God, the special effects in this are so bad. But what's really interesting about this, I found this out when we went to go watch it, is that evidently to come up with the ideas for what would happen to the characters, the director spoke to his teenage daughter and was like, okay, what are some of the worst horror things you can think of? And then he incorporated all the ideas.
Right on. That's respectable. That's an interesting take, though. What would you want to see in the movie there, young girl?
Yeah.
And incorporate that. It's interesting touch of sweetness to that. Yeah. I've been watching a whole lot of modernish movies lately, and I hadn't seen a matte painting in a while. And I'm like, oh my God, is that a matte painted background that I'm looking at right now? It's beautifully painted. Very obviously that it's a matte painting though. But yeah, it's 1977, so what are you gonna do? But yeah, it's on HBO Max. So if you got the Max and you're scraping the bin of something to find, go ahead and check out House.
It is
88 minutes, so it's quick.
It is not for everybody. But if it's something where you like that sort of Sam Raimi Evil Dead style, you're gonna dig on this shit.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird, and you just got to be open to it. Or, I mean, I'm not into that kind of culture, but if you dig on the edibles, I say go for it and then watch House.
Yeah, I would 100% agree with that. If you are into mood altering substances of any kind, this is going to be a movie that may or may not be right up your alley.
Yep.
And what about you, sir?
Mine is not that.
No.
You challenged me to see a film that, and we were talking about this before we began recording. This is a film that somehow or another hit my timeline, either on Facebook or on Twitter. And so when you challenged me to see it, it's already on my Netflix queue. Perfect. I'd wanted to see this. A film from 2018, directed by Lance Daly, distributed by AFC Films, Black 47. This takes place in 1847 Ireland, when they were dealing with the potato famine.
Yeah.
And the British Army, Britain was still all up in Ireland's business, as they unfortunately have been known to be.
Yeah.
And basically the people then had two choices. Well, three, technically. Stay there and starve, leave, or go work for the British in the army. And the people that went to go work for the British were often seen as turncoats. They had betrayed the people that lived there. Well, one young man who had been a ranger in the British Army comes home. Now, it was a little unclear to me if he had deserted or if he just had whatever his time was, he was done. But he comes home and he's trying to do everything right to help the remaining surviving members of his family. But because the British are British and basically responsible for everything that's horrible in the world because colonialism, he's like, I've got money. Let me pay for this stuff. No, we're going to arrest your ass and kill your family. Yeah. Sure, we wouldn't have a story if you did the right thing, but okay. So because of that, he's like, in a weird sort of nobody John Wick kind of way, all right, you're responsible for the death of all of these people. You're torturing my people in my country. I'm going to fuck up all your shit. Yeah. And it's not an action-packed thriller. It's more of a drama.
Yeah.
It's far more of a drama. But the action sequences are incredibly well shot and really interestingly staged. Hugo Weaving is also in this. There's also Stephen Ray and Jim Broadbent and a few other familiar faces.
Barry Keoghan.
What was that?
Barry Keoghan.
Yes.
It's in there for a little bit as well.
A little bit as well. And he kind of broke my heart. His performance, just a little bit.
That's
just the way it goes down.
The one excessive character, because I was like, if you take Barry completely out of this movie, nothing changes within this movie.
The only thing I think it changes, and the reason why they do that, is how it impacts Hugo Weaving.
Yeah,
that is the moment where Hugo switches.
True. Yeah.
Hugo Weaving, he plays a member of the Brits who ends up having a connection with this man who's come home. We find out as the story goes on, and he's hired by the British Army to track down this former Ranger. And so they're sort of in this cat and mouse game, and they're getting outsmarted at every single turn. And it culminates in this really wonderful action sequence, a shootout at Jim Broadbent's compound, but it still maintains the drama of the period. None of it ever feels overblown or out of sorts in the way that it's staged or set up. It's definitely something that, while it's not a happy or a high octane film, where like, we get done with this, if I could go watch Nobody, I would fucking go watch Nobody. If I could watch part of Justice League, I would totally throw that on. Black 47, knowing what I know now, I need to be in a mood for.
Yeah.
But it's got some great sequences for it. So thank you for recommending that one.
That's an ending that I love. Just that ambiguous, undecisive, which way is he gonna go ending, I think it's one of those ones where, you know, you're looking at the indecision, and I'm just like, please cut it now, just cut it now, and it cuts, and I was like, yes, that's how you stick a landing in the movie. Yeah. Cinematography on that is gorgeous, by the way. There's some wonderful shots in that movie. Desaturated all the shit with the colors, but except for the beard, except for that red coat. That
beard was beautiful red.
That is a beautiful, beautiful ginger beard on that man, and those super red coats. But other than that, they desaturize the shit out of the color. But yeah, I highly enjoyed that joint.
Yeah, so thank you for that one.
Oh, yes. You got anything else before we wrap this bad boy up? We're right at an hour.
Watch movies, be safe, get your vaccine if you can. Once you get your second dose and you wait your period, deep tongue everybody.
There you go. Just
actually, that last bit you probably shouldn't. Consent first,
and then tongue all down the throat.
There you go.
And that's it for 47 of Cinnamon. We will be back.
It's still the 47th.
It's not that long an episode. We'll be back. I assume we'll have one more show before our usual Oscar run up. We will be back with something new for you here in a couple of weeks. Until then, take it easy, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.